This is episode 6 of Pitchin' It with Ben. In this episode, I am joined by professional golfer Hannah Gregg. We talk about misconceptions in women's golf, challenges women face in professional golf, and the challenges women face just going to the golf course. Hannah shares some of her journey to this point, lessons she's learned, her experiences playing mini tours, and how she juggles her professional career with her social media presence. Honestly, it was such a fun and informative conversation. We talk about all this and more on episode 6. Please like, rate, comment, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening.
Yo, what's up?
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How about you?
Good. I'm just bored. You know how it is.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, first of all, good to officially kind of meet, I guess.
I know. Took us long enough, right?
Yeah, even I'm trying to think. I mean, that's the thing about the golf industry. Like, paths, unless you're on the exact same tour,
Yeah.
paths rarely cross.
No, and even we've been trying to meet up at the show and all these different things, and then even the founders, we were so close to finally making it happen, and then they were like, "Oh, Corona."
I know, and also the PGA show is
Oh my gosh,
a whole different thing.
I kind of hate it now. I'm unless someone schedules a meeting with me, it's just too stressful to try to find people, because you're "Oh, I'm at this booth," and they're "I'm right there, I'll come find you," and then they never come, and then you're just lost and you never find them again. You're okay, bye.
It is a whole city. I've definitely been to smaller cities than the PGA show.
every WAPT tour event is in a smaller town with less population than the PGA show, for sure.
I don't know how many thousands of people.
Oh,
trying to think. God. Yeah, it's wild. So Hannah Gregg, what's you been up to? This quarantine routine. I don't know if you've been able to get into one, but you have an interesting. I wouldn't say it's dissimilar to a lot of people, but it was pretty rapid for you, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So, mostly the reason that I was so affected by it was because Frederick, my boyfriend, is from Sweden, and they kind of as soon as this happened, we were pretty cautious at first because we were in Arizona and no one was really doing anything. They weren't in a state of emergency yet. So it was just kind of life as usual. And we were a little worried because we just can't afford to get sick and take 3 weeks off and then have reduced lung capacity for the rest of our lives. We're athletes, so we got to be careful about that stuff. So we were pretty careful. And then Fred got an email from the Swedish consulate saying that if you need to go home or if you're in the U.S. for an extended time, you should go home, because they were stopping flights from the U.S. to Sweden. That week. And his dad actually got something very similar to Corona. They're not doing much testing over there, so we don't know if he actually had it, but at that time we just kind of assumed he did. So Fred had to get home. So we scheduled him a flight 3 days later out of San Francisco. And we packed up our apartment in 10 hours and moved back. It was insane. So yeah, in about a 3-day span, I went from living with him in Arizona and practicing all the time to being back in California, and he's in Sweden. So it was weird.
Weird. I'm sure that there's a lot of other descriptive words that you could use also for that. But
yep. But yeah, so it was a big change. I mean, he actually thinks that he had it as well. What happened was he flew out of San Francisco. The flights were getting all messed up because Sweden was subsidizing these flights to get people back to Sweden. And his flight actually left without him from New York City. So he had to spend the night there. It had 4 people on it, and they left. So he missed his flight in New York City. He had to spend the night there. They put him up in a hotel, and that was when New York was like really at the epicenter of outbreaks. They hadn't stopped, obviously, international flights yet. So people weren't wearing gloves or masks, and he's pretty sure that he got it then. And he was sick for about 2 weeks when he got home, and now he's good.
So wild.
Yeah.
You been okay?
I'm all good. I don't do well without structure. That's something I know about myself, like, for my whole life. So as soon as I got back home, I just tried to find, like, something to start my day, some things to do that I was always going to do every day. And then I just kind of viewed this whole quarantine as a time to work on all the stuff that I couldn't work on during normal season. Like, you obviously can't make these big swing changes and crazy stuff when you're in the middle of trying to play. So I just am doing it all now and working with my coaches. And it's just kind of a good, like, break to stay ready for when things start up again. So.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think for especially competitive professional golfers or competitive golfers in general, like, you've played a lot of golf through your life. I don't know how far back. We'll get to that in a minute, but, like, it's probably the longest break you've had from.
Oh my God,
like,
yeah.
Like, maybe ever, since maybe before you started playing or something.
For sure, because, like, with golf, it's not really like other sports. Like, if you take time off, when you come back, I mean, you've probably seen on Twitter, like, all these PGA Tour guys are literally topping it. Like, it's not like riding a bike where you just remember it again. So I think I don't remember taking more than one day off since, like, high school. So yeah, it's been a long time.
So you mean like at least you did practice, took some swings, or worked on short games, something like yeah. Yeah, it takes a while to get, as Tiger likes to say, get the feels, get the feels back.
Even when I was like the ranges are starting to open up and stuff, and I got to hit balls the other day, and I was just like, is anyone looking right now? Because the first shot, I don't really want to hit this.
You know what? That's the thing, though. Everybody hits bad shots. You're okay.
That is one thing that I wish more people, like, they showed more on TV and just broadcasting in general, is, like, I don't think you guys understand how much these guys suck. Like, they literally think that every PGA Tour player hits the center of the face and hits a high draw or a high cut every shot. And I'm like, you go watch. Literally, my favorite is the one, I think it was Zach Johnson, who, like, topped it off the tee at Augusta accidentally, and then they, like, blocked coverage of it. It's like, you see that stuff all the time. When I was at the U.S. Open was at Olympic Club in San Francisco back when I was, like, 16 or 17, and I was a standard bearer, and I was following Phil's group, and there was this, like, super long par 5. I think it was, like, almost 700 yards, and Phil hit one into the rough, and then he pulled out his 3-wood, like, whiff topped it. Like, I swear to you, to get to his next shot, he took, like, 2.5 steps. It went nowhere. And then he just kept his 3-wood in his hand, hit it again, and hit it to, like, 20 feet on the green. I was like, did anyone else see that? Like, am I the only one? Phil just topped it. Stuff like that happens all the time. And it makes it look like it's so much, like, they're so far ahead of you, but they're just better at recovering. That's it. Yeah,
I would say I think it would be better for the game. I don't know where to, like, gauge it, like how much it would really help or be negative, but I think it'd be much better to have some relatable moments sometimes. Just, like, because we literally all do it. Like,
I saw a tweet and someone said, like, I wish there was, like, a 10 handicap in the field at every event just to show, like, a scale of how good those guys are. I think that would be awesome. You see some guy shooting, like, 87 in tour conditions and he's a scratch golfer at his home club. That would be awesome.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I don't know if you saw, I started to share some stories, like, from my LPGA tournaments, and I shared one from the first LPGA event I went to. And so this young woman, Suchia Chang, she's from Chinese Taipei. And it was, like, that exact scenario. And I went into it, look, My only experience was like watching on TV. I'd been to a couple PGA Tour events, but it was during practice rounds. So I actually hadn't been to like an official round. So I really hadn't seen like bad shots.
Yeah.
Also, I watched Tiger on the range, which is like,
Okay. Just a stripe show.
which is like the most perfect thing you could ever
Yeah.
watch. So anyway, yeah, my expectations were a little like blurred, and it was like middle of the fairway. She was middle of the fairway, 3-wood or 5-wood in hand, and just straight topped it. And I was like,
We have this running joke. Fred and I always say this because there's like girls on the LPGA, Symetra, all these tours. We don't really hit those crazy bad shots. You just can't because we don't have enough speed. It never happens. We're all very like straight. Even the long hitter girls are much straighter than like guys. But there's this shot that we call it the LPGA top because every pro golf girl struggles with this like 3-wood off the deck, like tight grass shot because most girls hit up on it. You don't have a lot of club head speed. So if things are slightly off, it is very easy to top it. It's just so funny because like once a round or once a tournament, we always see one girl who just gets hit by the LPGA top. It's very sad, but
yeah, but what happens after that? Because see, with Suchiya, so I'm like in shock, like, what? And then she pulls out keeps the same club in hand, hits it, and then she hits it to 5 feet.
Yeah, dude, no. It's literally like, I think we're all unfazed by it because it happens all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I've really seen girls, I saw Lydia Ko literally snap hook a driver at that, like, Tournament of Champions thing in Florida. She hit the worst drive I've ever seen, straight OB, and then she just teed it up again and hit it literally 250 yards, like, high drop. And all this happened in a span of, like, 22 seconds. I was like, and she was just casual. Then she hit it up on the green and somehow made the putt. I was like, what just happened?
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic Lydia. Yeah. So the bad shots do happen, and it's just like I think that's the thing. And it would be more impressive for the audience watching is that, hey, they hit like a weekend, like a 20-plus handicap shot. But then the next shot, though, they're not going to do that shot again.
No,
or the odds are like, basically it's not going to happen. So that separation, you can understand it more instead of just perfect shot, perfect shot, perfect shot, perfect shot. Unless the leaders, of course, Tiger and Phil for so many years of our lives, like they're leading and then they hit lot. They haven't always been the best at tee shots. So
yeah, but like Tiger, this was like, I mean, in Tiger's like prime, I was literally 4 years old, so I didn't get to watch all of this stuff live.
2001, yeah.
Yeah, the dude was winning tournaments by like 8 or 9 shots. Like, you can't mess up. You can't mess up and win tournaments by 9. Like, the dude was on a whole nother level. So, I think, like the lead groups, you're probably not going to see those crazy shots. But the chase group and the ones right after them, there's a lot of those shots. It's those guys who are like, even the guys who are, Max Homa talks about this a lot, because I would rather see those guys who are like on the cut line, who hit like, you have to birdie the last 2 to make a check or something. Because like with Fred being on PGA Tour Latin America, like we're friends with those guys. So you're like hoping that they make a check that week. And there's this like, where you stand in the field, right? So you're like, okay, I literally flew to Buenos Aires. I'm $3,000 in debt. I have to make 3 birdies in a row to like break even this week. They all know that stuff. And then they do it. Like, it's crazy. I would rather see that stuff.
Yeah, because that's a different style of golf too. Like
100%.
A little bit more, or a lot more aggressive. Like,
yeah.
And they're all shots that everyone can hit. I mean, not everyone necessarily, but you can hit those shots. You just don't do it most of the time because you'd rather not have the downside of it, short side of yourself or whatever. But
totally.
Yeah, you're right. Seeing that, kind of like the do or die situation would be so much cooler.
It's so much pressure.
Somebody told me. Oh, it's another podcast episode I've recorded. They were telling they've like holed out for Eagle 2 times to make the cut or something in their LPGA Tour career. Yeah.
so badass.
And
That's
I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, I'm 100 yards out. I have to make this. Okay. I had a girl on my team in college when I was at Sonoma still, and she was like our number 5 player, so she was pretty good. She traveled sometimes, and but she had this thing where she would like, if she wanted to do it, if she like wanted to make a putt or really wanted to play well, like she just would. Like she'd turn it on and like focus and like actually try. And like there were multiple times where we'd be at a tournament and she'd be like, I want to make this chip. And I was like, dude, do it. And then she just would. And I was like, who are you? Like, can you teach me?
That is so wild.
It's
and
funny.
Also like low key, as a friend or a teammate, or as in my case, a sibling with my sister, it's like, why can't you pull that out? Like,
why weren't you doing that back there when you triple bogeyed number 1, sir? No, that's a whole different deal. I mean, I've played with a bunch of people who I kind of feel like Tiger is like that too. They can like will things to happen because they want it so badly. I don't think she was quite on that level. I think it was more of just like, oh, why not, you know? But like you play with some people, and I've played with girls like this too, where they kind of like scrape it around all day, but like they don't mess around. Like they get the ball in the hole.
Yeah. Actually, that's what, man, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but I try to keep it condensed. So, like, last year was the first time I went to a Symetra event, and I made it to 2 of them, and they were pretty close, like within an hour of where I lived. I was like, yeah, I want to go check it out. And that did blow me. Well, first of all, it's super competitive, as you know, and I think there's a big, like, misconception, a pretty big misconception there amongst the general golf public population, whatever. But there's a lot of the girls out there have been on the LPGA already, and they're just fighting their way back. But it is like you see some, I would say, not necessarily conventional swings.
Totally.
But they're still shooting par, under par, and it's like at the end of the day, that's golf. Like, right? That's the goal. I mean, it just matters.
I've played with girls. I mean, this happens all the time, from like junior golf all through college golf, and now like there are some, you'll be like, oh, this girl, like she's really struggling today, like nothing's going her way, and then you count it up at the end and she shot 71, and you're like, what? Because like it literally does not matter. Like it, even if they look like they're struggling, that is one misconception I think about when you watch girls on Symetra and on the LPGA. The broadcasting, I've noticed, is very different between PGA Tour and LPGA. We do see a lot more of those, like, not so great shots, like layup shots, just like basic stuff. And I think it gives people the idea that these girls, like, don't play aggressively. Not true. Like, if there's a par 5 around 500 yards, every girl on the field is going for that in 2. Like, they just are. So, yeah, I think it's kind of weird how that image is, like, portrayed, but girls, there are plenty of girls who scrape it around, and you're like, oh, you probably shot, like, 75 today, sorry about it, and they're like, no, I shot 67. Like, cool.
Yeah, and then you have, like, the feeling, like, okay, again, this is like, my relation, so on, like, my playing with my other amateur friends, not on the professional level, but like, you know, as closely related to it as I can get, is I'll play with some older guys, and I'm like a 7-8 handicap. So like I'm pretty good, but obviously like I'll get into the 70s. That's good for me. But I'll play with the guys that are, you know, older, definitely don't hit it anywhere near as far as I do. But when we're playing at like 67, 60, so it's like 6,700 yards. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's like I'll have a couple of a double and a triple in there, and they just don't go above the like bogey. Like bogey is the worst that they do. And then you add it up, and it's like either I only win by a couple shots, beat them by a couple shots, or even sometimes they beat me, and I'm like,
you're like, what happened?
What is going on?
One thing I've really noticed, just like following golf media and stuff, is I don't really like this. Like, people will describe when they play with a girl or they're watching a girl play, whether she's on the LPGA or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, she just doesn't make mistakes. Like, no, that is not true. And I get it because it's very different than men's golf. So there isn't those like random OBT shots or like wild 3-irons into the crap. Like, I understand that it's different, but not making mistakes doesn't make it easier. She's just has such good control of her game that like her misses are very small. So it's going to be like, oh, I missed that 4-footer or something, or I didn't convert this hard bunker shot, rather than like, oh, I dumped it in the water because I went for this unreachable par 5. Like, the misses are just different. So people will be like, well, the girls just don't make mistakes. And it's like, we do. Don't talk about it like it's just easier for us. Like,
yeah. I think that, and I try to tell people this all the time, literally the only difference is that essentially like that little bit of physical difference, like
totally.
off the tee. If you start getting into wedges and short game and putting, like a par 3 tournament would be really impressive. I think it would just be straight up even. Like, you could do it, and a lot of women would win. Like,
It would be so cool.
put Inby out there. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
She'd make every putt, and then like, how do you compete with that?
The deal is like, the one thing. No, if you talk to any girls on the LPGA, Symetra, anything, no girl is going to say, oh, I'm just as good as the guys. Like, no one talks like that. No one thinks like that. We play very different styles of golf than guys. Most of us play with guys all the time, and we know that we don't hit it 330. So, like, it's not – but we convert very differently. So, like, one thing that people don't really realize is for, like, Frederick, when they go to a tournament, they're playing anywhere from like 7,000 to like 7,400. It's usually within that range. And they all hit it. They literally, almost everyone on that tour carries it 290. That's just how it is. So like, they're playing a much shorter golf course than girls who hit it between 220 and 250 playing something that's 6,500 yards. It's a whole different thing. Somebody run the numbers on it, and I've seen it's about a 20%. We're playing about 20% longer than the guys are essentially on their courses, which is a huge advantage because the way that guys go low on courses is hitting greens in 2. And having those are just automatic birdies. Having less of a club into a par 3 so you can hit it closer, like that makes a huge difference. So one thing that I think should happen in women's golf is that they bring things back a little bit, since the average hitter hits at 250 and they shouldn't be playing these 6,500-yard golf courses. I think it would be a lot more interesting.
Yeah, so it's interesting you bring that up because I actually haven't had too many conversations with players about this, but with caddies I have. And yeah, because I think there's this misconception because at the top of the women's game, you have long hitters.
Totally.
You have Jin Young, who, she's long enough, and obviously, like, her game is nearly flawless. But then you have Nelly and Arya and Sunghyun and Arya, and, like, they all hit it far. Jessica Korda, like, they hit
Lexi hits it
Lexi, yeah.
Like, she's on Team Bridgestone, so I hear all her numbers all the time. Like, her TrackMan session will be right before mine, and I'm like, you delete that. I don't want to look at that.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of misses, like, she is the only one that I've seen just simply because of how fast her swing speed is. I have seen the biggest misses come from her. Just simply because
she hits it so far, she can, like, duff a chip and still make birdies. You're like, okay, do whatever you want.
It's true. So I think that, and that's just simply, I think part of the issue is the coverage of it all is that, they are the best players in the game, but if you look statistically, like, majority of the players are not hitting it that far. Totally. So, and also if you look at scores, like, you see a lot of these tournaments where the winning score ends up being like 14 under or more. So it's like, a lot of people think it's too easy, and it's like,
yeah, okay.
No. Like, look at and I tried, I need to do more, like, analysis of all the tournament rounds, but it tends to be fairly skewed, except for a few events like the Founders, where it's like a birdie fest and there's multiple people, totally. 20 under or more under par. But there'll be like a few players, like 2 to 4 players that get to that like low, but then there's usually a pretty big separation when you start to get to, then it's like the majority of people will be like just say 6 to 9 under or something like that for the week. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be better for the women's game overall. I don't know how you would institute, like that's a whole realm that I'm not familiar.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's funny because when you go to like tournaments, you always play with the host families and you meet all these, you do all the pro-ams and all this stuff. And these like, I have this like knack for getting paired with the local club champion for some reason. And like every time. And we'll go and he'll be like, they try to like big time you. And they'll be like, just so you know, like, don't be intimidated, but I've won the club championship the last 5 years in a row. And I'm like, cool. Like, let's see what happens when you're playing this. Because when we go out there, the greens are faster, the rough is thicker, you're playing from much longer back than you're used to. And also you're a little nervous because you're playing with, like, the girls. And it's just funny because we'll play with these guys and they'll be like, oh, I'm so impressed. Like, I thought I was really, really good, and now every girl in the field beat me on my own course today. How did that happen? You're like, the thing that people don't really realize, I think, is there is a huge difference between the girls that play professionally, even though they probably hit at the same distance as you, and like golf course good, like country club member good. There's just such a big difference, and people don't really realize that.
I know. It is sad. I think that it only happens like when like that experience you had. So like it happens so slowly. Like that guy, maybe he has the same perspective now, but hopefully it's different. Like his perception has changed a little bit. It's hard to get that across to everybody because out of the thousands of golf courses and country clubs in the country, professional women's golfers don't get to them. So it's not like they get a chance to actually see that. I want to so bad, like the local course here, just have one of my LPGA friends stop by one time and just like dust everybody. Like, I
really want to do like a series. I think this would be like the funniest YouTube series ever of me just like wearing like normal clothes and like showing up with my boyfriend and being like, I've never done this before. Like, can we play some people? And just like absolutely roasting them and taking all their money. I think that would be the funniest thing ever because it already like anytime we get paired up with people at Whirlwind or wherever we're playing, people will be like, do you want to go up there to the red tees? Like, do you? And I'm like, yeah, I do. How much do you have your wallet with you? And then it's just like a blood fest, but it's fine.
Oh my, I don't get that either. Like, I really, really, really don't get the concept or like why people say at the range or like, oh, hey, you should try this. Like, why? Yeah. It's never happened to me. And like, I'm someone that actually used some tips, but like still just in general though, like, I don't know if someone's not asking for it. I don't understand why you go out of your way to do that.
I've never been comfortable giving someone help unless they probably would have to ask me like 2 or 3 times before I would really do it because like golf, like you said, everyone's swing is so different. There's only a few teachers that are like really trusted to actually know what they're doing, and like they're not going to know that by looking at you in their peripheral from down the range and be like, you know, I know this secret that I read in Golf Digest last week. It could change your life. Like, it's such a weird thing to try to offer someone when there's so many different things that can be an issue in your golf swing. And like, it is really difficult because when you're a girl and like just being a girl in general, we're very approachable. We're socialized a lot different than guys growing up. So you don't really say, don't talk to me. Don't bother me. I'm practicing. Like, we don't do that. So we tend to get bothered a little more on the range. But like, hacks who are topping it will walk up to a girl who's literally like a stripe show and be like, you know, your right foot is just a little off. Like, I think I could really help you. And these girls are just too nice to say, go away. And so it just keeps happening. I feel so bad.
Yeah, I probably try to offer you like their magic driver that like doesn't slice the ball or you know, one of those things, like all the illegal clubs they have in their bag too.
Totally. The hammer.
The hammer. and like the chippers, like the all that stuff.
Amazing. Yeah. So funny. No, it's crazy. And like I don't know if that happens in other sports. I know that when I grew up playing basketball and other stuff, no one would come up to me when I was shooting and be like, "Can I help you?" Like it's kind of unique. I think it's also because you spend so much time when you go golfing, you're there for a long time and people feel like they can help you and they really know what they're doing. But I will say one thing that Frederick has helped me with this a lot too. One thing I learned very quickly was people can give you all the advice that they want. It's your job to not listen to it. Like, it's not their fault that they gave you bad advice. It's your fault that you let it get into your head and affect you for the rest of the day. Because it's so easy, especially when you're not hitting the ball great, to be like, oh, well, that guy said my head was moving a lot. Like, maybe I should try it. And like, no. You're a professional. You're an adult. You don't listen to everything that everyone says. Because if you do, that's like such a quick way to ruin everything and mess yourself up for the next 6 months. Like, it's just how it is.
Yeah. And I don't know, women or being a woman part of it / girl, I guess it's always guys too. Like, have you ever had a woman walk up to you and be like, hey, you want some
No, dude, the women
advice?
I love when you go to the golf course like accidentally on ladies' day, because they're all on the range, they're all doing their own thing, and the only thing they'll ever do is walk past you and be like, looks amazing, like, you're so good, what can I be you? Like, no woman is ever going to be like, you suck, can I help you? That's never happening. It's always a dude.
All these like little, actually like little borderline, really kind of very annoying issues that just day to day, like, just have to deal with.
I mean, like, I won't even get started on what it's like to go to the golf course as a girl, because it's a whole different deal, and a lot of people don't understand how intimidating it can be for women. But yeah, it's a very different dynamic, and I think that the more that like girls can just say, I'm working right now, like, don't bother me, the better their life is going to get. Because one thing that I've noticed that's very just something to note is, like, if I'm practicing with my dad, or I'm practicing with my brother, or Frederick is with me, nobody talks to me. But literally without fail, every single time, if Frederick goes to work on short game and I'm alone, within literally 2 minutes, someone will walk up to me as soon as he's gone. And I don't think they're doing it as like a creepy thing or like trying to be like, oh, he's gone, I can like lurk on her now. I don't think it's that. I think it's just like, it's a very different vibe, and they know that for like girls are not going to be like ignoring them or rude or anything, so we're more approachable, and they're just like, I'm gonna go ask her those questions now. And it's so funny because Frederick will literally just walk back because he knows that I can't say no, so he'll come back and be like, aren't you working on something? And I'll be like, yes. And he's like, she's working on something. And he just takes care of it for me.
Yeah, that is nice. But I mean, it's nice to have someone to be able to practice with and kind of, I mean, stick up for you. At the same time, the nicer thing would be to just be able to go, like, I can go practice today and know that a complete stranger is not going to come up to me and try to give me advice. That would be the ideal thing.
It would be nice.
Do you use headphones at all?
Yeah, I always have headphones in. I don't listen to a lot of stuff in my headphones because I want to be able to like hear how I'm hitting and stuff. When I'm putting, I listen to a lot of music because you don't really need to hear like the contact. But it's actually really difficult for me to hit like driver or something with headphones in, just because you can kind of feel where you're hitting it on the face, but sound is pretty important too. So I usually have something in just so people won't talk to me, but there's not sound coming out of them. Unfortunately, with AirPods now, like, you can't see them. Like, there's no cord, so people can't see from far away, like, oh, she has headphones. So I think I need to get some of those, like, big ones and just have, like, no sound coming through them and just, like, noise canceling ones. That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I like the ones that are, I think, like, they wrap around your a little bit, like the running ones or something.
That's true. You can kind of see those more.
Kind of see them. Well, because I was curious about that because I think everyone is different, but I've tried listening to music. I'm on the range, and it's just not. It's like when I play, am I going to have music? And I've always been a big fan about all the sports, and I don't know who told me this at an early age, but like practice like you play. So
Yeah.
it's like you, at least, and I guess it's okay. It's just fine. Like whatever works. Like I know there's people that listen to music, like, and some of the best players in the world do that.
Yep.
But at least a little bit of time where you hear the contact, everything. I think that does make a difference.
Yeah, I think it's kind of important for like just the coordination of all the movements. Like you need all five of your senses. You need to be able to like hear everything. Smelling everything is a big part of like grounding yourself before a tournament, like making sure that you're in the right place and mentally and stuff. I have a pre-tournament playlist that I listen to, but I'll use it to get a little hyped and then it goes off. And then right before I tee off, it'll come back on for a little bit just to get like amped up again, get in the right frame of mind, and then it's gone. Because like you said, you're not going to be able to go out on the golf course and be like listening to your music. There's going to be distractions and stuff. So it's important for sure.
Yeah. I played with a guy one time at my city course where he was playing like by himself also, but he was just like headphones in, just vibing. And that's different. Like, I'm pretty sure they're noise canceling too because like he couldn't hear anything. And
That's like scary to me though.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, if someone hit a bad shot
Yeah.
and you couldn't hear them yelling at you, or someone could be like a runaway golf cart, they could just
Anything.
anything.
Or like, like the a cart's coming up behind you or something, you don't move out of the way, or like someone's yelling at you because there's a snake near you. There's like so many. I mean,
So
like
yeah,
I guarantee you that no girl is ever gonna have fully noise canceling headphones with music on because we're always just trying to be like aware of what's going on around us.
yeah,
Especially, like I'm not saying that every golf course is super dangerous, but if you're alone out on like the fourth hole, you have to be a little aware of what's going on and like if there's someone else there, whatever. But having fully like no hearing, people could just like walk up to you and then you get scared.
yeah. So I asked to play with them because it was like one of those days. Like two singles is kind of can be a long wait if there's groups in front of you. Like if there's no one out there, it's fine. But so I just asked like, you want to play? And he just kept the headphones in like the whole time. Like, all right, man. Like I guess we'll play together and you can
not talk at all.
Not talk. It's like I at least try to say like good shot. Like
He's grinding.
I guess I mean there's sometimes I think golf is a social sport or is a pretty social sport, but and sometimes I get it though. Like you do go out to kind of have a lot of courses you can't do that. I think where I live, our courses doesn't necessarily get so busy that you have to have like you have to have a foursome. Like I know plenty of courses that are that way. Like you have to have a full group. You're gonna get paired up if you sign up or if you reserve a tee time as a twosome. Like that's just how it is. But here we get lots of like walk on, play by yourself. Yeah. So kind of have that mindset already there. You just want to enjoy because to me it is peaceful to like play around sometimes. Like just be out there hitting some balls by yourself and
it's so nice, yeah.
But when the time comes, like you should,
I just want so awkward.
It was pretty awkward.
There's just no situation where I would get paired up with a stranger and be okay just ignoring them the whole time. Like I understand, and I've done this with girls before where you'll say like, hey, I'm not a big talker. I just don't do that. I'm not being rude. I just really need to focus. And I've never had someone say like, wow, that's rude. Like everyone understands. But to just like plug in and completely tune out that you're playing with another human is very weird to me. That's funny.
Yeah, it was interesting experience to say the least. And then I've had the experiences with, there's stories like that. They go on a long time. This is not about me. This is about you anyway. So, I do want to hear about your college career a little bit. So you started at Sonoma State?
Yeah, so I picked up golf pretty late in like the industry standard. My dad had played my whole life, but I did pretty much every other sport before I picked up golf. My parents really wanted us to like try everything and see what we liked. So I did ballet for 9 years. I rode horses competitively for 7 years. I played basketball for 6 or 7 years. I did a lot of running and stuff. So I kind of did everything. And then my sister actually went to college on a equestrian scholarship. So she was riding horses. And when I was 16-ish, I was getting into golf. I was playing on the high school team for fun because there was this like weird, I don't know if you've heard this before, but everyone for like the past 15 years has been like, there are 500 unused women's golf scholarships every year, which is not true. Just so everyone knows, that's not factual, not a real thing. I don't know where that came from, but so my dad was like, maybe you should look into it in case riding doesn't work out. And so I was playing golf at high school, and when I was like 16, I took a really bad fall on my horse, and my parents were like, we're done watching our kids get thrown around and injured all the time, because riding horses, you just fall all day long. You're getting thrown off, you're falling into ditches, all this stuff. So they were like, we're done, we don't want to watch this anymore. So I had to pick something else. And golf was like the natural thing because I was pretty athletic. I was comfortable with it already. I was very familiar with like golf swing. I was shooting in like the mid 40s, which is like whatever, high school good. So I started doing that. When I was getting ready to graduate high school, my coaches were like, hey, just so you know, like you could probably talk to coaches and get a scholarship. So I emailed literally every college coach in California, and I was like, I would like to play college golf, and I got a good scholarship to Sonoma State, and I decided to go there because it was close, and I really liked the coach there. And after 2 years, I literally loved it. Playing golf I'm super competitive, so when I was at Sonoma, we won everything. Like our team won literally everything. It was so much fun. There was a couple tournaments we won by like 40 shots, which I just loved. And
Wow.
yeah, we went to nationals, all sorts of fun stuff. So after, the crazy thing was, from my freshman year, I was averaging about like 84. So I wasn't great, but I traveled every week as like the 4th, 5th player. And when I came back for my sophomore year, my average dropped to 76. So I had in the off season, I worked really hard and had a huge improvement in a very short amount of time, which just made me even more addicted. Because you know how hard it is to improve in golf. And I was just like, oh, I just dropped like 8 shots off my average. Like maybe I'm just like naturally good at golf. Not true. So I loved it. But I was kind of like, when you're at a D2 school and you're winning everything and your team is always, everything's easy, I just knew about myself that I wasn't going to get better. And if I wanted to play professionally, I wasn't going to get to that level unless I absolutely had to. That's just like how I work for some reason. So I was like, I need more of a challenge. So I looked into transferring. My little brother was signing with the University of Nevada. My little brother was a baller, much better than me. And he kind of like talked to the coach and was like, my sister is looking into other schools. Do you think the women's coach might want like a brother-sister team? And I guess they love that stuff at Nevada because they had a sister duo that was like amazing a few years back. So they were like down. So I got a really good scholarship to go there, played there. It was definitely challenging. I grew a lot as a player because I was suddenly around girls like, these top girls at Cal were playing SDSU, were playing Las Vegas, all these girls, like Haley Moore was in my conference. Like, these girls are good. It's a whole different deal. And so I slowly got better and better and better. I played 2 years and I redshirted a year. So I took an extra year to graduate, and I graduated in 2018. And like, I loved it because like I got a top 30 at one of my first tournaments, and that felt so much better than any of the top 10s or top 5s I had gotten at Sonoma for some reason, just because like the quality of golf was so much higher. So then I just kept doing that. I talked to my coach, like, she played on the LPGA, so I was like, do you think that this is, like, an option for me? Do you think this is worth pursuing? And she was like, 100%, but if you do it, you have to do it. Like, you got to really do it. So after I graduated in 2018, I took the rest of the season to grind and get better, and then 2019 was my first, like, actual professional golf season. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're pretty late. Say late. I don't want to sound like mean, but like late to everything. Like you started golf late, and then you did make that big improvement, which is something that I did witness the first time I had a swing coach. Like I had my first lesson, and it was just like when I was 18 or 19. And like whenever you are at that level of golf, you can make like a massive jump. Like,
oh yeah, you can change things like crazy.
Which does kind of give you, I think, at least temporarily, a flawed perspective. Yeah. Sounds like maybe a little bit, but regardless, you got down into the 70s, which is a big jump in golf. Any golfer, like when you make that jump from the 80s into the 70s, that's totally. Like big. So, but you started to think. So after that jump, you think an improvement. You started to have some like, I want to be a professional golfer someday.
I think, honestly, I probably had no business thinking about turning pro when I was shooting 84, but I was. Just because, like, I had so much fun doing it, and I was, like, so into winning, and I was, like, it was just fun for me. So I was like, you know, like, maybe I should think about this. Because at that point, I had no other, like, sports that I was going to pursue. And I was studying communication, so I knew what I wanted to do in that regard. So I was like, why not just, like, try to do it? And, like, the problem is that the jump from shooting 84 to 77 is obviously a huge jump, but you never are ever going to see that big of a jump again for the rest of your golf career, ever. After that, it took me the rest of my 3 years in college to get to shooting, like, scratch golf. And that's only a 4-shot jump. From shooting 76 to 72, like, it took me 3 years to do that. So it does give you, like, a kind of a false confidence, but it also gets you, like, super addicted to working hard and, like, you're chasing that improvement again. So it's kind of like it's weird.
Yeah. No, okay. Actually, I was going to say I get it. I've struggled with this in, like, almost every conversation I had because I try to say, like, I understand and can relate, but, like, I can't. But, like...
No, but you can. You can.
It's
like jumping from, I think it's similar when you start shooting. Like, this is one thing. I don't know if you know this, but the average golfer never breaks 100. Like, the average golfer shoots 105. So if you shoot lower than that, you are significantly better than average. If you shoot in the 80s, you are in, like, a very low percentile of talent. So I think the jump from shooting 90s to shooting, like, 79, sometimes shooting around 81, is a similar jump, like, skill set wise.
Yeah. I had this conversation with Cheyenne Knight just a couple days ago. Like, and you know the numbers. I don't know the exact numbers, but, like, when people are being honest, like the people that are being honest about their scores, yeah, it's like something crazy. Most people never, ever break 90. Like, most people never actually break 100. So I think that when we, like, being a part of the golf industry, as especially working with a lot of professionals, like, you kind of forget sometimes that people, like, you're not normal. Like,
100% you do. Yeah. I talk about that with Fred all the time because when you are pro or you hang out with mostly pros, a bad score is 77. Like, that's when the wheels fall off and, like, everything went really bad. So you kind of lose touch with, like, normal people. And, like, I play with my dad a lot, and he's pretty good. So it's not a very good, like, he shoots, like, 79 to, like, 81 or something. So he's definitely not average. But you play with, like, a normal golfer where the bad days can be, like, 95. And then you kind of remember, like, oh, yeah, this sport's really hard.
Yeah. I remember my best like week. I played 3 rounds, shot 77 3 rounds in a row, and I was feeling real good about that.
Vibing.
I was like, yeah, this was pre-swing lessons. Anything like that was good. Like legit no swing lessons. Because I have this weird. I guess it's not weird either. I think as humans, like we have this need to like want to fix things ourselves, and it is amazing though, like how quick you can improve just by asking for a little help, like
True.
From the right people.
Totally.
I think there's some people that aren't going to take you the right direction, but you know,
like I think there's this weird in the golf world and in other sports too. There's this weird like when someone's good at something, they want it to be because like have you ever watched when they talk about Michael Phelps or Michael Jordan? They'll be like, "Oh, well, Michael Phelps has a longer femur than any other human on the planet. He was made to be a swimmer. Like, no one else could ever." Like, they have this weird need to make it, like, an innate thing that they did themselves, where really it was just a lot of hard work and maybe some natural talent, but mostly a lot of hard work. And, like, it's funny to me still because even, like, with Tiger, when I get, like, fittings and stuff or we talk about equipment, people will be like, "You know that Tiger can feel the tape underneath the grip and he knows exactly how much is there. And if it's wrong by 1/10 of a degree, he knows." And I'm like, he has a hunch. He doesn't know. Like, we all have the same brains, okay? Like, he doesn't have, like, a 10 times more perceptive brain than any of us here, but he works so hard and he knows exactly how things are supposed to feel. It's just funny to me. So people love, like, the homemade swing thing. And they're like, "I've never had a lesson, and here's how it looks." And you're like, Jesus, maybe you should get a lesson. Maybe that would help.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It is interesting though. Well, like the only swing coach I've really worked with, he talked about it like Bubba, for instance. It was like a big deal when he was winning, like won his first Masters and everything. It's like, oh, he doesn't have a swing coach, or like, but my coach, the man that was teaching me my swing, gave me some swing tips. He was like, like that's not complete. That's not true. Like he spent his whole life, like even going back to when you first start golf. It's not like he's never had someone tell him how to teach him how to hit a specific shot or give him pointers. Like same thing with Tiger. Like he had Steve Stricker out there helping fix his putting. Like I mean help improve it. So.
And there's no players who get to, like, the top level without asking for help. It just doesn't happen. Like, when you go into the world of professional golf, and even, like, when I was going to Q school for the first time, I was so flustered because I just didn't know how everything was supposed to go. I was like, "So how does this work?" And girls were like, "Oh, I don't know. I've never done it before." And I was like, "So what do we do?" And they were like, "We just wait and find out." And I was like, "No, we don't." Like, no one knows what's going on. No one knows how to do it until they've done it. So asking for help is, like, so key for all those things because it's going to take you so much longer to get good if you don't ask someone who's already good.
Right. Like, I think it's hard to realize, like, how big a shortcut it can be. Like, instead of taking this long lap, like a lap around like a track, instead of taking the whole lap, it's like someone gives you an option. You could just walk across the football, like, the grass. And cut it all off. It's so
different. And, like, it's not even so much with swing stuff now for me. Like, my coaches are there. My swing's in a place now where, like, it's pretty good, okay? Like, there's nothing crazy that's going to happen. The issue is, like, getting comfortable in those situations, like preparing yourself properly, making sure that you feel good in this environment and you don't let your mind run away with things. Like, those are the things that experienced golfers know that someone who's just turning pro has no clue about. And learning it for the first time, like I remember Frederick has been pro for 5 years now. And he had like he's had a super impressive resume playing golf in Dubai, all these different places. And when I turned pro last year, I kind of thought like, it's just going to be like college golf. Like I was fine there. I'm going to be fine here. It's not. And I played in one of my first tournaments, and I was like 4 under through the first 9, like leading the tournament, vibing, feeling good, ended up shooting like 1 or 2 under or something. And the next day I just shot absolutely a million. I shot myself out of it completely. I think I barely made the cut. And I just remember calling Frederick and like crying for an hour and being like, I can't believe I blew it. Like I was doing so good, blah, blah. And he's like, this happens to everyone. This is normal. Like this is literally how golf is. This is just, you're going to have to get used to this because this is literally the norm. This is going to happen more than you winning is going to happen. And I remember just being like, fine, like not fully accepting it, but it's so true. Like you literally just have to get used to getting your butt kicked all the time and just holding out for like the 1 or 2 times where something really good happens because it's just how golf is. And he had the experience to like know that. But obviously that was something that someone had to tell me because if not, I would have gone out the next day and shot a million again and been so mad for the next 3 weeks or whatever and probably spiraling and not getting better, where instead I could just say like, this is normal. I'm going to learn from it, grow from it, move on.
Yeah, for sure. And also to keep in mind, like, to not have the people that are at the top, like, don't pay attention too much to them. Like, there's things you can take for them. But for instance, Jin Young Ko, like 114 holes without a bogey in a row.
Dude.
Yeah, like no one's ever done that before. So like, that's just different. And the majority of the people, that means that of all the tens of thousands of golfers that have teed it up, or hundreds of thousands, whatever, like never happened. And to realize, or even like Lydia Ko winning an LPGA event at age 15 as an amateur. Like
insane.
These are anomalies, and I think that people either as fans like will see that and expect that out of everyone. Like, oh, Hannah, you're a professional golfer. Like, you should be right. You're shooting in the 60s every single time, and like,
yeah,
no, that's not how it works. The majority of people, like, it's a grind, and you'll have really good weeks, good days, and then you'll have several bad ones. But learning how to like accept those bad days, bad shots, like I think that has been my play on my non-professional level. That's something I worked, like I feel pretty good where I'm at now. Mostly because I haven't been on a course in 3 months to get mad at hitting a bad shot. But
right now.
But I had the same thing. Like, okay, I play softball, right, with my dad and my uncle, and I played baseball growing up, so that was the sport I played for 15 years. But I play softball in the softball league with my dad and my uncle, mostly because I get to spend time with them. But I used to, like, that competitive side, that ultra competitive side controlled me until I was about 21. And then I kind of like actually had an incident where, like, you know, I get mad. Like what? Okay. Basically what happened was I was playing in the outfield. Someone hit, another team hit a foul ball, but I thought I should have caught it. Like, it was a pop-up. I thought I should have caught it. I really shouldn't have. Like, it just was so far out of reach. But I feel like I should catch everything. It's kind of like on a golf course. You feel like you should make every putt or something. Like,
totally.
Okay, it happens. And also, like, no, you're not going to make the 50-footer. like, it's like, every time. Like, it's not going to happen. So I went over there and I yelled a bad word. And I looked up and just, like, I was near the fence. And I looked up and there was, like, maybe 15 feet away from me on the other side of the fence, like, this young girl. And I was like, and honestly, that was like, hopefully she's okay. And the dad that was nearby, hope that like he forgives me. I hope everything's fine.
Aww.
But it was a turning point for me, actually, because I was like, this is a game, and I'm definitely not playing for money. Like, I'm not doing anything except, like, I'm supposed to be out here having fun. So anyway, like, I try to relate that to golf too. Like, I used to have some anger fits too, but it's not worth it. And also, you get off your game. I don't know too many people that can get mad and then play better.
That's the thing. Like, so I talk to Frederick about this a lot because we deal with our emotions super differently. He's very extroverted. He is super outgoing. I'm not like that at all. And when I get angry on the golf course, all of it is like totally internal. Like, from the outside, you would have no idea what's going on. Inside, I'm beating myself into a pulp. Like, it's not great. And he has this, he I used to be a little bit like scared of it because I thought he was mad at me when I was caddying for him, but he will literally slam a club into his bag, kick the side of the cart, and then it's over. Like, it's gone. He's not mad anymore. His body's completely relaxed, like he got it out. And for me, I'll be for 3 holes, like the tightest shoulders you've ever seen, like freaking out, and then I'll end up bogeying 3 in a row, and he'll birdie the next 3. So it's like, the people who do get angry and do well after it, it's because they can get rid of that anger so quickly rather than like someone who doesn't really get upset but holds on to it for so long and it ends up affecting it. Because you're right, like you cannot play good golf angry. You make terrible decisions. You're thinking about all the wrong stuff. You're thinking about what happened already. And then you're like, well, now I got to bogey 16 more holes, or I got to birdie everything out so that I can and the funny thing is, like, I was talking to him about this because one shot, like, you can hit all these good shots all day and you'll be like, all right, I guess I'm playing pretty good. But if you hit one bad shot, you're like, I've lost my swing. I suck at golf now. Everything is terrible. I'll probably top the next 4. Like, you can have a million good shots in a row and you still, like, one shot can derail you, which I think is just funny about, like, the golfer mindset in general. But that's one thing where I think, like, if you're going to get mad, you got to move on so quickly and not let it affect whatever you do next, which is, like, something I'm struggling with, but we're working on it.
Yeah, you'll get there. And I think that's the process that you'll figure it out, because you are relatively new. Like, that's kind of weird to say because I know you from the golf industry and seeing you on Instagram and other places. So, like, but you're still relatively new, and then learning to the game and then figuring out those emotions. So you don't have like all those years of junior golf from like age 8 where you played competitively and you went around playing tons of tournaments and learning how to cope with your emotions and stuff like that. And moving on, like.
And I also played I think the issue also is that I played other sports where you're allowed to be. It's much easier to use like your anger and stuff in basketball because it's not such a like precise motion. Like I can just slam into someone and it's fine. And then you kind of feel better, or you steal the ball from someone and you're fine and everything is okay. In golf, like it's just you and you're walking down the fairway and you can literally say anything you want to yourself and it's not helpful. So, and there's really no way to get your aggression out unless you like punch a tree or something, which I might start doing. So like, yeah, I think definitely I heard Danielle Kang talking about this on a podcast. I know you're close with her. She seems super cool. I can't wait to meet her someday. But she was talking about how like she also was kind of late to the game and people wonder why she's not like winning everything because she's so talented. And she's like, I literally just I'm trying to catch up with the experience. Like I don't have the experience that some people have and I'm still learning every time I play, which is literally how I feel. Cause I'll get to a tournament and I'll be like, everyone here has done this before except me. And you put yourself at a disadvantage by saying stuff like that. So it's definitely, I think I'm going to work on making it more of like a chip on my shoulder that I use to like get better rather than being like, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
I only played golf in high, you know what I mean? So it's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's interesting you say about basketball? Basketball is still my favorite sport. Like whenever I get stressed, I just go to like, that's the thing that helps me unwind the most.
Totally.
But I love basketball because it is reactionary too. Like it's so fast. Like you can't dwell on it. Like you literally like mentally can't hold on to something unless you get put on the bench. But if you're just playing like pickup game or something, golf, you have that long walk between shots.
Totally.
So you just think and you get stuck in your thoughts and it's like, Also in basketball, you can actually turn things up. Like,
yeah,
you can play defense harder if you want it. Like you can drive more aggressively. There's things you can definitely do to take out that frustration or whatever. Golf, and that's something too. I think I don't know why I thought about it just now, but it makes sense. Like you practice. Do you ever practice angry?
No.
So you know how
sometimes, but
okay. But you go on the course if you're angry, like actually angry. So it's like a different hormone or whatever. I don't know. Like
everything's different.
Being released.
Yeah.
So you can't play like you practice then. So and just and someone like you and Fred, like I know Fred, he knows like the swing and like the mechanics of things really well. Like a little change in your swing and
Oh my
like
God.
and a little change in your tempo, like your game is gonna disappear.
Dude, and so my swing is very reliant on timing, and I don't like overpower the ball. So if I'm mad, it changes a lot. Like for Fred, the dude swings it at 120 miles an hour. Okay, so like if he gets a little angry and he gives a little extra, like not that much is gonna happen. But if I do that, it can go sideways. So like yeah, for me it's super important. And it's not even just with like the swing part. I don't know if you've ever tried to like putt angry, but it goes very poorly. It does not work very well. So yeah, it's very different than other sports I've played. It's kind of similar to riding just because when you're on a horse, have you ever ridden horses?
I've ridden a couple times.
So they can feel your emotions very, very well, like very strongly. They can tell if you're scared. They can tell if you're nervous. It's kind of insane. So like if you're angry on a horse and you try to get it to do what you want, it does not work. It's kind of similar in that way, but riding is also very reactionary where it's quick and you don't have much time to make decisions. So golf is kind of new for me in that way where I have to like get myself back in gear when I have like 200 more yards to walk. So, and then you have to hype yourself up to hit this next shot over water when you're not feeling confident. It's a whole different thing. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think experience plays a huge role in for sure.
Well, do you have anything that you try to do then to kind of calm yourself down or help like any mental exercises or something you try to help yourself help you with that?
Yeah, honestly, so it's kind of a bummer because I started playing pretty well right before Corona happened. Because literally I was talking to John Tattersall about this. He's Fred's swing coach, and I've done a bunch of work with him too. He was literally telling me that I don't remember who originally said this, some really good PGA Tour player was saying, like, I give myself 4 bad shots around, and when I just expect those to happen because it's going to happen. And when one of them happens, I'm like, cool. Now there's only 3 more I have to worry about. Got one out of the way, move on. And if you expect it to happen already, it's not a surprise or a shock to you. So it's much easier to deal with. My problem is that I since I do hit the ball very straight and my ball striking is very consistent, I try to play perfect golf. And when something bad comes in or I miss a green I think I should have hit, it can just literally like derail me because I think, well, now everything's bad. So expecting bad shots has made a huge difference for me because now I'm not surprised. Now I just am like, cool, the next one, if we're looking statistically, is probably going to be good. I'm probably not going to hit 2 bad shots in a row. So that has honestly helped me a ton. That made a huge difference for me. That's not to say that you should be like, who cares if I hit a bad shot? Like, you're never going to not care. It's literally impossible as humans. Like, you want to do well every time you do something. So you're never going to not care that you're hitting a bad shot. But, like, what are you going to do about it? You can't do anything. Move on. So that's helped me a ton.
I like that. Yeah, I should try that too.
Yeah, and the good thing is, like, sometimes you'll only hit 3 bad shots in a round, and then at the end, you're like, oh my, I'm so good.
That's awesome. Like, okay, so I'm going to bring up Jen Young again just because I asked her this at the U.S. Open last year. She said that, like, she'll reward herself. It was super, super hot the U.S. Open last year in Charleston, like over 100 degrees a couple of days. It was so hot. But I was like, is there anything that you like to have or after a round, after a hot day, like ice cream or a popsicle or boba tea, like, you know, something cool like to help?
Yeah.
And she was like, just water, unless I'm bogey free. If I'm bogey free, I will get ice cream. And I was like, oh. So, like, she rewards herself for, you know, playing well. Do you have anything like that where you
Yeah, I mean, so usually now when I'm practicing, like, Fred and I are always playing for something. It's usually like who's doing the dishes or the laundry or something. But during tournaments and stuff, for me, it's more of an attitude thing. Because I don't want to end a bad round and then like compound it by going home and being like angry about it and then taking that into the next day. So whatever, when we have a good round or a bad round, we always follow this routine where we'll go practice after for a little bit till you feel better, like you solved something, you feel like you're prepared for the next day. And I have a small Slurpee addiction. So basically, if I feel like I did a good job during my practice after the round where I feel like I got stuff done, I was really focused, I'll get a Slurpee. I like the blue ones, but that's not very healthy to do very often, so we try to keep it to a minimum. But yeah, Slurpees are definitely like my reward of choice. I love Slurpee.
That's a good one, especially being out in the desert. I mean, I guess it started to get really hot recently, I think, over there.
Dude,
in
we left, so when we left, it was literally like 73 every day, cloudy, like no clouds, perfect blue sky. And then I think about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, it started being like 105. And I'm like texting Fred, I'm like, should we even go back? Because my parents live in like the hills of California, and here it's like 80 every day and perfect. There's not great golf up here because they live in the middle of nowhere, but I'm just like, do we have to go back to Arizona? Because I know in the summer, I mean, even like you saw the Symetra added that event out in Mesa, Arizona, and I'm just like, August in Mesa is going to be literally 125 degrees.
That'll be hot. But at least the only thing about like in the desert, if you can at least get shade, which is hard to find, but like an umbrella, umbrella like would definitely help in that kind of thing.
It makes a huge difference. Like Q school, were you at Q school last year?
I did not make it to Q school, no.
So it's honestly not that bad compared to like what you're used to in Indiana. I've played so much golf in Florida, like that heat compares to nothing. Like it's insane. But in Palm Springs, it's so dry that if you get under a tree, you're pretty much okay. Like there's probably like a 10-degree drop in temperature from under trees. The thing is, you can't stand under the trees in Palm Springs because when it gets hot like that, the trees will just drop their branches, like actual limbs of the tree, because they're not getting enough water. So literally, like, you can't do that either. So you just, like, sit in your golf cart and, like, try to stay alive. It's pretty funny.
But yeah, that Florida heat, dude. I mean, it's just humidity. Anywhere it's humid where you can't escape it, that's when it gets really, really bad.
When I first started dating Fred, he was living in Atlanta, and he was like, come out, spend a month, you're going to be so shocked by the golf here. And I was like, well, Augusta is there, so it's got to be awesome. Like, let's go. So I go out there, and I spent a month in Georgia with him. I thought I was going to die. Like, it was like 95, but with 100% humidity. You are just, like, you're just wet all the time. Your shirt's wet. Your hat's wet, like you're literally just covered in your own sweat. And then they're like, you know what, why don't we take a break and go sit on a rocking chair? No, take me to a pool. This is terrible. I don't want to sit outside anymore. Like what? You get a little used to it by the end where you're like can breathe, but you never stop sweating. It makes no sense to me.
You just get used to it because that's usually what happens here in summertime. Humidity will sometimes get low, but not really. It's usually pretty high. You do get kind of used to just being sweaty. It's gross. It is gross. It is gross, but you just kind of get used to it.
You take like 3 showers a day because you get ready in the morning, you go play, shower off after, and you're like, okay, I have to go work out, shower off after. Then you do like whatever else in the day, and then you shower before bed. And I'm just like, what is happening here?
You just go to get groceries. Yeah, and that walk from the car to the store and then back, you're just like,
and there's bugs. The one thing in Louisiana, it's the same thing. It's super humid there, and it's like swampy in Louisiana. So there's just bugs everywhere. And like bug spray, so they were telling us this at the WAPT event I played out there. There's a bug spray for like mosquitoes, but that repels mosquitoes, but it attracts those little gnats, those like tiny bugs. So then you're getting like covered in gnats, so you have to have a different spray for that. But you can't put that around like your eyes and stuff. So bugs are just trying to fly up your nose all the time. And like hitting a putt with bugs pounding your face is like a whole new struggle. I was like, can someone help me? They were like, oh, try putting a dryer sheet in your back pocket. That doesn't work. Nothing works. You just get used to having bugs in your nose. That's it.
You know what? I think it might have something to do with you being from California, because they know. I'm telling, like, my aunt who lives in LA, she grew up here in Indiana, but she's lived in LA for over 20 years. Every time she comes back here, she gets swarmed. And, like, the rest of us will be sitting outside and legit not be bothered. Like, they all go to her.
They literally know. Yeah.
They know. They're like, you're not from
California blood, dude. I don't know.
It's wild. Okay, just a couple more questions for you. I appreciate all your time. You're such a good storyteller also. So you have, I want to know how you balance, like, you have your social media marketing company, you have your social media presence, like, and then trying to be, or being a professional golfer, trying to get to like that next level.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. I will say though, playing Division I athletics had a huge part in me being able to manage my time. I know everyone says that, but I think like people don't understand how student athletes, like, you're up at 5 every day and then you do homework until 11. And so like you have such little time in between that space that you learn to be really efficient. And so when I left school and I had all this free time, I just didn't really feel productive at all. So I kind of run on that, like, that speed anyway. I'm also super ADD, so I'm always doing something. I'm not very good at like sitting down and relaxing. So it is difficult for sure. I will say if I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't be doing it. If I had tons of sponsors paying for everything I needed to do, that would definitely be the way to go. But it's literally just what I have to do in order to play golf at the level I want to play at. I'm totally self-funded. I have been this entire time. I did do a GoFundMe for Q School last year, and a ton of people helped me out, covered all my Q School expenses, which was amazing. But people don't understand, like, you can't have a job to play professional golf, which means that you can't have an income unless you do something remotely. So that's why I started doing Cozy Co, because I majored in journalism and communications with a minor in social media. So I was kind of already prepared. I worked at an agency based in San Diego for a year when I was in college, so I worked for them remotely. So it was just kind of like the natural fit. And that's literally just how I fund my golf. So that's how I pay for lessons, flights, tournament fees, all of that stuff. And it's worked out well. It's very difficult. It's a lot to manage. It's not impossible. But you definitely, like, the other thing that I'm very lucky to have, my sister is my partner in my company, Cozy Co Social. So like when I go to a tournament, she takes on everything. For those 3 days, like, I don't touch my phone. I don't answer client emails. I don't answer the phone, which makes a huge difference because I know for a fact if I had to think about client stuff when I was at a tournament, this would not work out. So managing time for me, I think, is just like, I thrive on routine. So doing the same things every day works really well for me. I know some people need to be a little more creative and have some like change in things. I don't. I'm good with doing the same things every day and feeling like that's how I make sure I get everything done. So basically, yeah, I mean, managing my time is a lot more difficult during the season because with time changes and stuff, clients will want to talk and you're like, oh, I tee off at this time. I can't talk until after this time, makes it very difficult. But having a good partner like my sister and also being able to do my job remotely has made a huge difference. Also, like, my social media presence is probably the easiest part of that because my impact on social media is literally just people want to watch me play golf. So practicing and taking content are the same thing for me. And I always have Fred with me practicing. So I always have a cameraman who can just take a quick swing video for me and then be done with it. So we've gotten very good as a team to like shoot content of each other quickly and then set it down and not touch it for the rest of practice, which has been super important. Practicing alone and trying to do all this stuff would be impossible. So
Yeah, because I've seen that part I was interested in because I've tried to shoot, like, do golf vlog style or like by myself. And then I've seen like Instagram takeovers, for instance. They've done it on the Women's All Pro Tour and Symmetric Tour and LPGA. And it's like, oh, this is our day. I think it's pretty difficult to get in like a very effective day of practice when you're constantly, especially when you're having to post a lot like that. But
dude, impossible. Like the one thing for me, I've always kind of done this, number one, just from like a safety perspective and also from like a time, like I want my practice to be actually practice. When I shoot stuff, I never post it at the golf course. I'm always gone from the golf course before I post whatever I did that day, which is important for me because it is so easy. I learned this very quickly to go down like a rabbit hole once you have your phone out. And also it leaves a lot of room for like distraction. Once you set your phone down, it takes a while to like actually get back to focusing on what you're doing. So like for me, that's a waste of time. I would rather just like snap a quick photo, put my phone far away, and then just get stuff done. I also don't have like the attention span for doing two things at once. It just doesn't work. So like I've learned for me, I just have to put my phone over there in the cart, take my clubs over here 40 yards away. Everything's on silent and get work done.
yeah, that makes sense. I think that if you were doing like an Instagram takeover, for instance, where you were doing like a play-by-play of your day, you would mentally, you're like, this is just for the content.
Yeah.
This isn't for like a day of getting better. I mean, you could get, you're working on stuff
Totally.
the best that you can, but yeah.
I mean, even like Fred and I don't do a ton of course vlogs anymore just because if you're picking up the camera every hole or every shot, whatever it is, you just can't hit good shots. And like we always joke because we do a lot of stuff with Cart Barn guys. His name's Kyle. And he is like a full-time professional golfer. I don't think I've ever seen the dude shoot above 68. Like he's very good. And whenever we all do a course vlog together, we're like, just ignore what's going on because we're all going to be topping it and shanking it all day. Because it's literally just, you can't have the cameras and the golf and actually expect to grind that day. So definitely like on the days that you're shooting content, you got to give yourself a little like grace and be like, today's not a grind day. Today's like a fun day.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think is a common misconception of you?
Of me. I think people kind of group me in with like the influencers before they meet me, especially because that is like the main golf girl thing on Instagram. It's people who don't really care to get better and they would like to just play golf for fun, which is totally fine. But a lot of people who aren't within like the actual golf industry struggle to tell who's a professional and who's just like a player for fun. So I think people tend to group me in with like the girls who are doing it for fun rather than someone whose first focus is playing, second focus is using social media to market myself so that I can play. That's probably the main. Whenever I meet people, they're like, oh, wow, you're much better at golf than I thought you were going to be. And I'm just okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, from an outside perspective, that's kind of the feeling that I got. Not saying that I thought that you were
Totally,
like the
totally.
influencer, but that would be the thing that a lot of people think. Like, I mean,
And
shoot.
I understand, like, it's I'm friends with some of the girls who are just like the influencer side of it, and they'll get comments like, if you're so good, why aren't you on the LPGA? And it's just like, that doesn't even make sense, first of all. Like, so I think people have trouble distinguishing like who's who, and it's easier to put me in like that group than the pro who's just playing pro golf group, because there's not a lot of girls who play professionally who do what I do. So I'm an in-betweener.
Right. Well, it's not easy to do what you do, But
Yeah.
I think you'll see it a little bit more because I think people are starting to realize that, unfortunately, but that women have to do it a little bit more, I think, but market yourself. So
100%.
like you're your brand. I mean, that goes for everybody, but I think that women they don't get the same opportunities in like
Yeah.
the classic and the bigger, like big media type stuff. So
Totally.
you kind of have to do that more. I think you'll see that more.
I already do, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it's the main issue is this: women's golf and women's sports all over the world are underfunded compared to male sports. That's just a fact. So if you are a girl this is why I started in the first place, because when I talked to all my friends who were already pro, I said, what's the hardest part about being pro? Like, I want to get a head start and I want to work on it now. I thought they were going to say, like, tournament golf is so hard, living out of a suitcase is so hard. Every single girl I talked to said money. You are not going to be able to enter in as many tournaments as you want to. You're not going to be able to afford your flights. Money is the main struggle. And the fact that that's even a thing is already an issue. But the one thing so Ricky Fowler's agent was talking to Frederick about this. And he was like, you have to understand that Ricky Fowler might not be the best player in the world, but he's one of the highest paid players. He doesn't win all the time, but he makes money because he markets himself so well. And if you have to choose, if you're going to sponsor a player and you have to choose between two pretty similar scoring averages, but one has a much higher following on social media, has much more reach, is much more marketable, they're going to choose that one. That's just how it is. So that was like my motivation to do it in the first place, because I wanted to have something I could offer back to sponsors and say, hey, you're not just betting on me, you're going to get a return either way.
Right. Which is seen too. I mean, you have some partnerships with Bridgestone and Mizuno.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad
I know.
group there.
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's funny because for both of those companies, I was their first contracts that weren't like Corn Ferry or LPGA players, so like obviously I have things that I have to do for them on the social media side, but I chose those brands because I talked to a lot of brands when I was trying to decide whose team I was going to be on. And I wanted to be partnered with brands who were going to treat me like a player, because the issue with doing all this influencer stuff is they think they can just send you stock equipment and you'll like promote it. And like for me, if it doesn't work absolutely perfectly for me, I can't promote it. Like I won't be able to use it. It just doesn't help me. So Mizuno and Bridgestone were both perfect fits for me because they treat me like a tour player first. They make sure every single detail is perfect for me first, and then I get to promote things from there. So they're great. They're awesome people.
Yes. I've seen that from like you unwrap like your new iron. They look good too, by the way.
I know, dude. They're so sick. I've done a little bit of work with them. Like we didn't have the shafts quite right the first time. We got that worked out. Then I got these like little ferrules that go on the end, so I had to go get those put on. But they turned out so good. I'm actually releasing a blog soon with Mizuno about my fitting process, because their fitting process is different than anyone I've ever been with before and so detailed. I loved it. I mean, they're a Japanese company, so it's a very different than some of the fittings that I've had like US based companies do. It's extremely detailed, like down to the data is very, very intense. So I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that because honestly, I don't want to expose myself like this. But no, I've never been fitted even. So
what?
No. I know.
My blog is gonna roast you. You're not gonna like it.
And I use iron head covers. Just kidding.
I was about to like close my laptop and just like leave the room.
Wow. No, just kidding. No, I definitely don't. But
don't even joke about that. First of all,
you
would not believe the number of DMs I get every day. They're just like, "Why do you hate iron covers?"
Oh, I'm sure.
You have to ask me. I don't want to explain it to you. Okay, you're not gonna understand.
Oh, DM stories. That's a whole nother. That's like a whole nother podcast.
That's a different interview. Yeah.
Okay, but the final question / couple questions. Just talk about your mini tour, like playing out on some of the mini tours. What that experience is like.
Well, so when I turned pro last year, it was around the same time that the WAPT was launching, which is a Symetra Tour developmental deal. They're connected to the LPGA. Honestly, that tour is run so professionally. Most of the girls that I talked to were like, this is run better than some of the bigger events we've played in on other tours, like higher up tours. It's literally just like the most professional crew. They have things roped off. They have like host housing for you. They take care of your meals. Like, it's just such a good experience from top to bottom. So when I started playing in those, I literally just like kept playing in them because they were just so much fun and such a good experience. So mini tour, like competition wise, I've been very lucky. I played on the WAPT and the Swing Thought for the past year, and both of those tours are just so well run and so well handled that I had a great time. The traveling, I don't mind traveling yet. I know that everybody's like, when you've done it for 10 years, you're gonna hate it. I don't know if I will. I like traveling a lot. So that part of it has been pretty easy for me. The struggle of like mini tour stuff is just like finding your crew and like who you can go to tournaments with, and like finding someone that you can go to when you play bad or when you play good, and being able to like have a community of girls. And literally, like, it's when you have a lot of girls in a small space, sometimes it doesn't work out very well. Just being on, that's just the dynamic of girls. Like, all of us are so different. But I have not had a single bad experience with any girl, whether it's been Symetra girls at LPGA qualifiers, WAPT girls. Like, everyone is so positive. We're all trying to do the same thing. And it's just a great little community. It's been awesome.
Yeah. What's the typical field size like on the WAPT?
So when I first started playing on it, they literally had like 40 girls because no one knew what it was. I think girls, especially guys, don't care where they play. They'll enter like a skins game in this tiny town next to them just because. Girls are a little different, I think, because we have to be careful how we spend our money. So when I first started playing in these tournaments, there was literally like 40 girls in each one. Now every single event is full and there's a wait list. So that's 120 plus people in every single event. So yeah, the average field size is somewhere between like 80 to 120, but consistently they fill up their events all the time now. With the Swing Thought, it's a little different because men and women play in the same field. So like the fields are usually full. It's usually, 100 to 120, but like 6 girls. So the most girls I've had in an event with me are 6, and most of them were amateurs, which doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Playing with guys has actually been a really positive experience too. Everyone's been really nice. So yeah, the field sizes are usually around there.
What's been the most surprising thing that you've experienced while being out on the road?
Well, I would say I was a little nervous because I am an introvert and I'm a little shy when like people first meet me. So I was pretty nervous about having a new host family every week because I was like, every week I'm going to have to meet a whole family of new people. And you can't just like go into your room and chill quietly after you play a bed round. Like, your host family wants to have dinner with you and talk to you and all this stuff. So I was a little nervous about that part of it. Every single host I have had has been the absolute coolest humans that I've ever met. Like, just the sweetest people. The WAPT has done an unreal job of choosing these people who do play golf, so they kind of understand. They're usually like members at the club that we're playing at, so they totally get it. They live close by, and they treat you like an actual princess. Like, I had a lady when I was playing in Texas, and her husband gave me their like entire loft outdoor guest house apartment thing, and they filled it up with food, and like everything was taken care of. They gave me a car to get to the course every day. Like, they literally treat you like one of their children. So that was the thing that I think surprised me the most. I thought I was really going to struggle with like the host family part of it, but it was never a problem.
Wow. No, that's wild. That experience, you don't even find that at LPGA events. Like,
Mm-mm.
so I would say, be thankful. Yeah,
Oh.
that was,
I'm thankful.
I know you are. I know you are. Okay, so final question is, what are you looking forward to the most about getting back to, when you get back into competition mode? What are you looking forward to the most?
I am really, really looking forward to, like I said, I kind of made some strides in the like mental side of things right when all of this coronavirus stuff happened. So I'm really excited to like test that further, and continue to do it. I'm mostly just excited to be like, once again, getting back into a routine because stuff like this tends to make me feel like I'm not getting everything done that I should be. And in Arizona, I had this, like, we literally just spent 8 hours a day at the golf course. So it's really easy to get a well-rounded practice in. I have to be a little more creative now since I'm hitting into a net. But I'm mostly just looking forward to, like, competing again, seeing if I have gotten better and what I need to do to take things to the next step. And I'm very excited for Q School this year. Last year was my first time, so it was like so nervous, had no idea what was going to happen. I think it's going to be a very different experience this time around, so I'm excited for that.
So, Hannah, thank you for taking some time to talk. It's been great, like getting our first official meeting after 2 years.
I know. Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Thank you for listening to episode 6 of Pitchin' It with Ben. If you like what you heard, please like, rate, comment, subscribe, and share. See you in episode 7.